with the source of the creator, the most high for making all things possible. I was kind of hesitant on creating this because, you know, how I get. But first, let's give out to the ancestors, known and unknown. I had my emotional moments, like I couldn't keep it down, even though I'm in a public space, but in a quiet room. Um, I just couldn't keep it down. I couldn't hide it. It's just some things I try to understand about people and so forth, why they make certain decisions, and I get it too. Um, One thing I've been noticing, like, I couldn't keep it down, so I just cried, and I think, not think, but I've noticed, um, I just noticing a pattern. I noticed a huge pattern around, again, me highlighting the huge awareness around men's mental health and the world having to go through things, um, especially when it comes to gaining a sense of compassion again. And I feel like I'm done crying now. Um, and I wanted to make sure I was good before I did this video. But what was I wanted to share? Yeah, going back to like me, like crying, and I couldn't keep it down. I realized that I wasn't supposed to. Um, and what it brought up, I recognized that, am I ashamed to cry in public? And this is why I realized how much empathy has been discarded so much. Like when you see something happening to someone, we've gotten to a place in humanity where it's, you know, just to mind my business, but really, which I know there's a shift, but people not really caring for the protection of uh, something saying like the new leaders on the rise or just a new energy shift. I've become a lot more aware in my solitude where um, you know how you don't want to see the hearts of people, but you have to. And it's for your protection because sometimes I'll be feeling like, well, why doesn't, you know, we've been in that place, well, why doesn't this person see me or love me or accept me the way I accept them? In reality, they don't have to. They don't have to, in meaning that if they haven't met themselves as deep or bring a sense of awareness around it, they don't have to. Um, I know the feeling of like feeling like I'm being discarded to bring up like things like codependency, uh, the uncomfortability around stability. You know, a lot of things where I'm realizing that it makes me take full responsibility in who I am and who I'm becoming. But going back to me crying, I just recognize how much just observing like people, how much they distract themselves, how much they literally distract themselves from feeling. And that's why I start to recognize delayed reactions. Um, so much deep within them. And that's the reason why they cannot relate. It's not that they don't care to, they just haven't had the opportunity to. Because this shit will make you feel so uncomfortable where you have to sit with yourself or you will distract yourself. I saw a post that says, you are the greatest project that you will ever work on. like in the midst of like me going through this major transition personally, I don't know all the answers to what's coming, but I've seen the visions, I've seen the things, and it's scary sometimes because I have to accept that it's not the same as it used to be, but I have to bring myself rather than me assuming that I have to bring someone else physically. Meaning like my purging the emotions and going through certain things, that's the part of me, that higher version, that inner child that I've been recovering so much from. That's the version that's awaiting me because, for instance, like when I'm through the process of letting stuff go, um, I'm realizing like how much really comes out about the environment, the people, how even dangerous it is when you have people who are so comfortable in what's familiar. And what I mean by that is like, as much as we don't want to see as protection, it is. I know this is going to be like one of my last videos for a while. I don't have to really say it, but if you know you're not going to hear from me for a while, this is I'm putting it out there now because I would encourage people, if you're willing to get to this place, to go away, and to stay away, but with a sense of surety and clarity, and however that is, like 6 months to a year. And the reason I'm just saying it is because I know that's what I'm being guided to do. But like I said, I really don't have to tell people, but I've already been in the process of this. It's just more accepting it. And I just also realize when you're being called to do certain things, that as much as you want to fight tooth and nail and bring certain people with you, it's not possible, because there's something that awaits you, that is certain information that you will get, only you can get, and no one else, without distractions. So yeah, the crying thing, like, it was something to show, like, it's wow how far we've gotten away from being authentic, being ourselves, being emotional, being in the human experience. You can feel the numbness, the fakeness, and with that, it's like there's naturally ill intention. And some people don't even see how unconsciously they're not healthy for themselves. And this is something I had to recognize within myself. Like, this is not at all like passing judgment. This is recognizing and becoming aware of, man. It's like when I see the environment and certain things, I'm like, when's the last time someone's seen someone cry? Let alone a man in public. Like, in public. I mean, and without a facade. Like, without trying to put on or saying that he's harming. And what it reveals to me is like, no one cares to come to your aid to ask you, are you okay? And before that, it's like I was walking up because I was feeling the emotion coming up, and I was talking to someone in the library. And I said, asking for something, and then a gentleman said, hey, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm great. And in reality, my spirit wanted to say, no, I'm not. And I recognize that in that moment because we've been so programmed to say that we're okay, we're great. And that's another way of just pushing the emotion down and not being authentic. No, I'm not great. Now, from all of this, I will be great, but just the fact of in that moment, I needed to be transparent and say, no, I'm not okay, but I will be. And that's okay with not being okay, especially if you're navigating through something. It's just a moment right now where y'all see this video probably months from now because of it's just where it's wild because I'm realizing how naturally, how more regulated my nervous system is to allow these things to just happen organically, like the video, like um, me doing this is so much of alignment to where I know that I have videos now like 4 or 5 months in advance. And I was just telling myself like, okay, the previous video is going to be the last video. But I also am reminded that I have to remind myself, like, even through the midst of what other people are going through, knowing that they're going through things, I am the greatest project that I am, that's been developed and worked on. It's a process. And these transits are revealing so much because we're at like the tail end of like Pisces and Saturn. So much is coming up. And I realize it's for protection for a lot of us because whatever people's day-to-day routine and they're going on and moving forward as if nothing is happening, that's the scary part for me. I'm not scared or afraid. I'm saying that's the scary part, that I realize that it's going to be a duality in some people's reality of what's going to happen, because there's so much of a collapse and it plays out. I mean, this is wild, but I'm noticing how it can play out. Like, I'm just getting clear to this stuff. I don't want to say like y'all wouldn't know, but well, I can't actually express this because the house that I'm currently in, I realized like the Saturn bring things full circle, or a lot of things that has been ignored, whether that be emotionally, mentally, and so forth on all levels, can no longer be ignored. So I'm noticing like the so-called person that's there to support the house, like when it comes to what they call the landlord. You can come into a place and recognize and see that there's things that's been ignored, especially like when it comes to like plumbing or certain things. And I've noticed like what cannot be ignored anymore is being what exposure is what's hidden. So it's being exposed. And I'm like, whoa. And with me now, I'm at such a place where in honoring these transits and surrenderings, I don't have attachment to nothing. I can naturally feel what's going on within people even more because I met myself more deeper. And I keep telling myself, no, I'm not reacting, I'm not doing the same shit, and not allowing certain access and so forth, certain responses, because I'm just, fuck no. And reason being is because the shift also that people are ignoring is that the ones that are being called to go deeper are the ones who are going to be protected. Like, this is very vital right now because in your protectiveness, you're being asked to go deeper, because in this shift, you're going to be able to bring up something that not only is unfamiliar, but eventually will become familiar to the masses, to humanity. And that's what cycle breaking is, breaking cycles and so forth, because again, people have been ignoring so much of themselves. And the thing is that you're being called to see it. Like I say, I've been called to see stuff, but for some others, I'm recognizing like you can't force them, you can't make them. And in that, it's the acceptance of that's okay. I've been noticing so much to where so many things that wanted to keep me distracted from the reality of seeing the bigger picture, the vision. And when things are collapsing and shifting, you can definitely have someone or people around you, the environment, if you pay close attention, you'll start to, as you slow down more, start to see things rev up even more so. The distractions, um, where you put your focus. It's so many different things I've been noticing. I'm like, no, even in the fact of people telling me that I should do this and I should do this, I should just surrender even more. I should just relax even more. Um, and then honoring that. Because in that, like I've seen before that happen, is that when certain things want to come and confuse you or manipulate you or deceive you, distractions get louder. Or certain things want to pull on your energy, they want to pull on your heartstrings, want to pull on the fact of keeping you from really standing in your truth or being authentic. So I've noticed, like, even through the shift, if you're evolving and going higher, then a different aspect of you naturally would be called. Like I've been telling myself, like in the last 2 years, I realized I've been called to do certain things when no one else would be willing to. That's why it's so big on the shadow work. When I'm realizing like I thought I was supposed to take a position, do certain things, and then I asked myself, well, am I wanting to be in a space where I'm more regulated, or do I want to try to get connected to something where I realize it's like, is this really for me, or am I trying to do this forcefully? So this goes back to the fact of like even what's happening right now. Okay, even what's happening right now when it comes to like again, uh, some of us that are being called to go deeper, it's not in vain. I wanted to believe otherwise because I start to recognize my attachment to what's collapsing. And a lot of things I realized with this Piscean energy or with this old world narrative is that the split of naturally people being codependent on a society, on other people and so forth. And when you're called to be more interdependent, your path is going to continue to look unfamiliar. And as you step into your independence, I'm recognizing how uncomfortable that is for people. It reminds me of like that time where I said I was with my grandmother. And again, I'm called to create my content, to be empowered, to share certain things, to share things for the bigger picture. Called to do certain things that are unfamiliar. And of course, people are going to pass their judgment, assume that you're not going to, just basically project what's what's impossible or what's not. How are you going to create a life around that? How are you going to, do whatever and be sustainable? Sometimes I question it. I have doubts. But then I tell myself, like, would I have gotten this far had I stopped now? And I can honestly say, absolutely not. And I'm going to still continue because what it's doing for me currently is still bringing up the uncomfortability in a lot of people I know, whether it be closest to me or not. And I'm noticing this, it's like if you pay attention to children, and if you're in something, if you pay attention to children who have not been tainted, who have not experienced so much of things that we have as adults, they're the easiest ones to never have judgment towards what you're doing. And that's why I realized, like, and for the very few of us who are shifting in awareness, as you nurture your inner child, you're going to really start to see certain people become very unsafe, and how unsafe they are for them, because in their not tending to their inner child or balancing that, this is what makes them like not safe for themselves and other people. It's not that they're not capable, but the more they keep trying to hold on to what keeps them unsafe, keeps them what they perceive as balance. And what I mean by that, like, it's not going to make sense if I sit here and say, well, for some, well, you got to make a living and you got to go do this, you got to go do that. Listen, y'all, I get urges too. But I'm also realizing that the status is changing on how we shift and live in this world. It's not. It's going away from people giving so much of what's not reciprocated. You're giving so much to a job, to an environment, to a relationship, and so forth. When you realize, like, when you look at the root cause of a lot of this shit, the overhaul is causing the dysfunction and the distortion in the relationship. And then going back to the root of it, who's taught you that? Where did you learn it from? And so in that inability to shift for a lot of people, which is going to take on a grander scale, that's what the shift in consciousness is. It's a shift in people assuming they have to be like this. So that shift is not just internally, but it's a collective thing that people realizing that they're tired. Like, I look into places, and just as much as my spirit was like, oh, I need to do this, bro, I was saying this video, like, the position was easy. Some people call me crazy and delusional. You think I don't want to make money? It ain't even that make it. I have to remind myself that I'm the spiritual currency. I just have a different relationship towards it, to where I'm not the only one. And it's more so that shift comes with the fact of my artistry, my creations, and so forth. Then I have to recognize also the foundations built upon that. Like, I was listening to a sister the other day talking about, well, artists, have to go about it in this way. And, some people look at you and they, people are watching you and say, oh, they're not ready. Let me tell y'all something. A lot of stuff is bullshit, because y'all don't recognize the fact of, when it comes to greed, when it comes to selfishness, when it comes to self-righteousness, there are people in this world that are specifically wanting just for a certain people or a certain thing to be on a certain platform, to make sure a certain image is put out there. Do you know what comes with that? That comes with the fact of, I have to be authentic through this shit. I have to have the guts and the courage to, in my way of doing this, I have to redefine myself through this shit. This shit ain't easy. Because then it's like, okay, how am I going to get this supplies? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And then some of us, at that moment, a lot of people don't know, with the fact of you being called to purge and heal and face things, shit coming up, I went and got a position. Like I said, it was easy. It was a cleaner position. When I'm there, I'm reminded, like, okay, I am going to speak to the nations. My message is going to reach billions of people. And I was sitting here telling myself, like, I went from resting so much, regulating my nervous system, creating my own routine, to where when I try to take this position, as soon as I got up, like, to go do this shit, it's like, it was so uncomfortable for me, because, and maybe this is just me, and I have to accept the responsibility around this, but I was telling myself, like, I went there, and again, it wasn't organized. Like, when I got there, they told me I was doing one thing, but then I told myself I got to see what I wanted to see, because it was in this huge convention center, and I was already just in there soaking it up, because I was like, I'm going to speak here, and I'm going to speak to so many different people. But it was bigger than just that. It's the fact of how they wanted to position me and put me somewhere. And then it was all over the place, and I'm sitting here like, they asked me, it was so funny because they asked me, like, to do something. And it was no way that I could stand around for 8 hours when I had already I wasn't even an hour in, and the guy was like, well, this is where they have you at today, first day. And I was standing, like, they was like, things be pretty much clean in here and stuff. Only thing you gotta do is do this and do that. I just told myself this. It's no way that I wasn't gonna walk back and forth, because the way I am, I have to be active. I have to focus on something. And when you're giving me a task and you're just telling me this is it, then I've already done it, and then I don't need to re-clean something. Hey, bro, I was at a place like, I just accepted. I said, you know what? When the first break come, I'm out of here. It sounds wild and weird to people, but I realize a lot of this shit that is created is so set up just for certain people, places, and environments to really feel that they are bigger than the position that they're in. And what I mean by that is like everything ain't for everybody. Like I said, I could not stand there 6 more hours. Not even just stand there, but do the same thing for 6 more hours. Like no. It was so easy to where I could tell they got comfortable with it because you have people in different places. And I was supposed to go with someone, but I was positioned by myself. But then I was just like, I had a mop, but then they have a mop bucket. Then I had to take that back, and I'm sitting here like, then you got the other people who were supervising over what we were doing. They didn't even know what to say to me. It's just like, bro, I'm telling you, some things don't make sense to people. But I realize I'm recognizing all these things as a collapse systematically in what we want to perceive that is so structured. It's not. It's not. And this is what's happening inside of us. We're refusing to continue to live in like confusion or delusion or whatever it is you want to call it. And I was like, man, no way. I could have just stayed in there. I mean, it was easy, it was simple, but I was like, then I also recognized, I'm like, this is the thing that keeps people, I'm telling you, you got folks that really want to work hard. And that wasn't me. It wasn't that I wanted to work hard. I just couldn't get my brain to grasp the fact of being consistent in what I've been doing and all of a sudden just changing. And like I said, that could be something within me, but just going out there and like trying to work for someone else or trying to do something for someone. I've just seen people do it for so long to where they're not happy. Then you hear someone come along where, well, you can do a 9 to 5, you can do this. I get it. But a lot of y'all don't know the mindset, the mental, the spiritual, you don't know where people at their well-being is. And that was literally for me because I've been telling myself, like I had made this vow years ago, that I was going to make a vow to myself, that I was going to take care of my inner child. I was going to take care of me. And that's what I realized. A lot of things that me getting to this place highlighted the fact of the instability that carries from my mother and my father. I'm accepting to unpack all of that in all of these different ways by speaking about it through my artistry. What I'm saying is I'm alchemizing, I'm transmuting this shit. And what that does, that creates a new world for me. Then I have to create a new ideal or life around that. And through that, that's where you navigate. You start to realize, like, you have to counter, you have to realize what works for you or what's the best for you. And then guess what happens? In your trying to seek that and trying to find solitude or safety or security in that, everything opposite comes up around that. Who's safe for you? Who's secure for you? Who has your best interest? And I don't mean by that just your best interest. Who's really supporting you through this shit? That's one of the most challenging things that I realize I'm not lonely. I just recognize I don't want to just connect to any old body no more. I don't want to just, and that's just personally for me because of the mindfulness of how much I met myself deeper and how much in protecting your inner child, you don't ever want it's just like your inner child, if you have children, you don't ever want nothing to happen to your child. That's the same that goes for you. You don't want to put yourself in harm's way. You don't want to be a part of a group or an environment and certain things that truly doesn't support your well-being emotionally, mentally, on all levels. And that's the deepest part about acceptance through who is supportive of that. And that truly reflects them. You can't force it. It just literally reflects them. And that's the thing that through life, for a lot of people who will come into these messages, they're going to realize that they probably were never at this place, but they've been feeling like this. And then they'll get clarity. I know I don't make this shit for no reason because I love it. But a lot of your clarity going to come through that. And It's going to come through a lot of uncomfortability with relationships. And it's not so much that you settle, it's the comfortability of what was familiar to that child, that inner child growing up. So you carry this mindset, this lifestyle into who you are now. And the thing about that is like unsafety. When you talk about the people not really being sure in their foundations or their reality is challenged. When people don't want their illusion shattered, what end up happening is they'll fight so much for it to sustain it. And what they don't realize they're doing, they'll fight for a false foundation to try to sustain it. And what it does is that it brings them, if they're willing, closer to themselves and realize how, in their interconnectedness to everything, they'll realize how much in there trying to separate themselves. And it's not so much a physical separation. What I'm recognizing in human design or how things have been set up, when we try to separate in every, like individually, yes, you have your emotions, but when we try to separate, what I've been noticing or what is a collapse in is that false foundation. When people have tried to separate, this is where emotional empathy comes in. Where people have tried to separate that their experiences doesn't affect everyone, and this is where the loop comes in. And that's where a lot of maturity I'm recognizing in having to distance or stay away to come into this self-realization and this clarity on why it is you should move and do what you're supposed to do, but in the best interest, not just for you, but for everyone. When moving in unsurety or emotional immaturity or, impulsiveness, I've learned the lessons from that. That shit'll have you, it'll feel like it's natural, but it's your nervous system, so, going off survival. Because when we fear something, we need to run away from it. Some people don't face it head on. And what ends up happening, this is what divine protection does. It's like I've noticed that when I recognize people who, you know, feed off fear or, want to stay in that frequency of that, this is where you have to be mindful and realize like this is your sign for either exit or something will align with that. Because one thing I've learned about growth is I'm not putting myself through certain shit ever again. And that's why I've stayed consistent in for so long, is the fact of being aware of who I associate with, what I connect with, and so forth. Because, man, I feel that nudge, but then I realize when I'm closing. I realize the healing around things. I realize in that you'll start to see, you know how they say the people's true colors? What it is, you just start to see what they've been holding inside, what they've been keeping inside, especially when you recognize that the world, most of the masses, the awakening is so important because most of the people have no idea of the importance of the cycles of the moon, how things spiritually work, the awareness around how things happens through cycles, how every cycle of the moon brings up a different version of you, perspective, energy comes out. All these different things that is calling us to embrace, accept aspects of ourselves. And then when we recognize that on a grander scale, we'll be able to be aware of why people do what they do. We won't be I had to learn to be so defensive or attached to it. Be so attached to the outcome. That was one of my greatest lessons. I will go through shit and here it is. I'm realizing the message is getting louder and louder, but what I'm being asked to do is, okay, you have all these different possibilities. What do you want to do? But also pay attention to what you want to hold on to that's familiar. Because when you're being called to position yourself for the betterment of all, then what's going to be mirrored back is who's just in it for self-righteous reasons, or who just trying to do things from a place of for their benefit only. And I'm just sending a warning to people. Those timelines, those things that are collapsing now, has a lot to do with what's truly unfolding right now. Vulnerability, like for me to be able to cry in public, it's like, again, I can only imagine the perspective of people because of what they internalize or what their experiences is. They're not, you know what I'm saying? It's not funny, but it's like to see a man cry in public or sit and just cry, that's not something that they're used to. So, and it's not to say that, what I'm getting at is like, that's something like people assume you do behind closed doors. And I don't mean just on like all this shit with people want to record them. Listen, man, don't get me on that shit. I think I've had video crying out to where some shit I see, it's just so staged, and I just wonder why. Do people understand and understand, like, do they recognize that this shit is staged? It's again, no judging, but I don't give a fuck. You're not gonna catch me recording, meditating or certain shit that man, social media. Oh my God, certain shit people record. I just be wondering, like, why the fuck? It's so, to me, it's more than just it being staged. It's just like, why the fuck? I gotta relocate. Hold on right quick. Nah, but like for real, like some shit. I be really having to protect my. I'm realizing now, like the mindfulness, like not just what you watch, but what you like really give yourself. Like, I saw some shit, bro. I was like, some shit just don't need to be recorded, bro. It's like, I really see it now. Social media has become the new, fucking, the new stage in a way. You know, it used to be a thing where, oh, there you go. Damn it. Social media used to, like, before this shit started, I'm gonna show y'all how evolution happened. You remember you used to just go see people somewhere and all like this. It's like people have to pull their phones out. It's a balance though, like life is really a balance. Like you gotta find the balance in everything. I saw this what the fuck was that shit? I'm just letting y'all know how shit made me, like, it's comical to me. Like, bro, there's no way I'm finna be recording every move that I make. I'm talking about, I saw somebody recording something to where, like, they came in to work, something they were doing. And the angles that they made is like, you gotta show every angle that you turning and move. Hey, to each their own. I was like, that's a corner right there. You ain't gotta record that part. I'm just getting to a place where we just don't take the fun out of shit, man. Like, you just don't got so fucking far away. That's why, what is it, too much of anything? Shit. But it was another one too. Like, yeah. I keep warning y'all about this spiritual shit, bro. Remember at a time where paparazzi and shit? Now everybody got a phone and a camera. Now where do you see those people at now? It's like now the attention went from a certain place to the shift of now, like the stage is social media. It's like, man, you have to be aware. Like, you have to be aware. I feel like my head looks so much smaller, it's Jack a little big as fuck. That's what happened beard goes. But yeah, man, this shit, wow, man. This shit get wild too when you're going through a shift because circle gets smaller. But things change though. Like, I don't want to take the fun out of life. It just forces you to go deeper and be mindful. And then the world's recognizing on so many levels how wicked it has really been, how dangerous a lot of places really are. Again, because there's no empathy. There's no, people have been numb so long. And I feel like I said most of the world either have dealt with some type of PTSD and or complex PTSD, especially in America. In other places too, like I don't know their experiences, but man. This shit, wow. And I'm gonna tell you how it becomes more clearer too, because just someone I know, like I said, the therapist had mentioned the fact of, delayed reaction, and I was like, whoa. And when you think about how much prolonged grief I've been talking about, unrepressed emotions around things that don't make sense to people right now. Like, I've tried to talk to someone and I just accepted that it doesn't matter how you say it. We just have to accept you plant the seed and move forward. I had to learn that even the stuff that I share, social media wise or anything, is planting seeds for people. The reason why I said the danger in it, well, it can be dangerous, but everyone is not able to do this shit. The reason being, and that's why I feel like so many people get so stressed and overwhelmed with what comes with it. Everyone's not going to agree. Everyone's not going to accept. They don't have to. That's the confidence. You don't get to a place like everyone's capable, but everyone's not ready for that backlash, that mental, all that shit. For instance, just wait when certain transits come in. And when people are to be revealed for who they really are, who they've done, it's happening now. When a lot of people don't have access, have basically knowing how to navigate, let's say if something happened with social media or something happened with banking, something happened with anything, and it can just bring up some type of emotions that's been pushed down. Again, this is divine intervention, but to someone else who's not aware of what that is, it can basically bring up what has been suppressed for so long. For instance, I'll use people like athletes. When certain things are starting to go away and attention is not going where it used to be, this forces people in a new identity. It's forced people to create a whole new identity around their life. I mean, again, take social media for instance. When people aren't aware of how to adjust and not willing going through the uncomfortability, it's just like I tell myself now. I had to go through the uncomfortability of being without finances. Most people don't. Imagine somebody born into wealth, right? Then let's say, as you see now, the shift in the dollar. So imagine being born into wealth, but you have no awareness on, you got so consumed by the ideology around just America, but don't have no awareness on, accounts overseas, or, building other things just in case something happens. See, y'all don't realize, like, when the powers that used to be, and, the powers that ain't, would the mastermind behind all of that shit was to convince people to be one dimensional, to be one way, for control, that was the part of the deception and confusion and manipulation, is to keep people slow, discombobulated, dysfunctional. And see, the thing about energy and emotions is like the ocean, the water. They can come this way, they can come that way. It's a vast amount. Energy is the same way. It's everywhere. Everything doesn't go a certain way, do a certain thing. So just imagine that when people short circuit it. Or where I'm getting at is like the fact of how coming online, or coming, what I mean by that is like awakening or insight, is opening your one world to the almost like a multiverse type aspect. It ain't just imagine like you growing up and you thinking your world matters over everyone else. And what I mean by that is like the lack of empathy comes into where you're not being aware that there's other people. Other people individually are in their own universe or in their own world. I never once said on here that every darker person experiences like my certain demographics. No, the collective mindset, that's what I speak about. Like when you hear me saying certain demographics and certain things, because I'm very familiar with the collective mindset around people who live in certain places. Now, it's very similar to someone who's of a lighter shade who could have a poverty mindset, or basically like that doesn't really have insight on outside sources, or mindset around how to connect with other people and so forth. But yet and still, this is how this is what has kept humanity in such a lower nature, lower vibrations, because in their ability to rise in who they are, they start to recognize like there's so many things, and this is the benefits of social media. This is the benefits of people losing control, losing their sense of believing that one thing has to be one way. Leadership shifting, because it has a lot to do with the shift in how people approach and see life. When you aware, again, let me go back to empathy. When things energetically are being exposed during this golden age, Aquarian age, let's say a person who has been living in self-hatred, or these things within themselves, but are unaware of generations or things of people who are darker, who also have played a role in a lot of things and such, then they would just assume, depending on their mind, if they don't learn or they're not willing to evolve, that they would just assume that it just happened to them. That keeps them in a different state of well-being. That keeps them naturally in a place of survival, trying to survive from those very people. See, me traveling and expanding and moving places has allowed me to now realizing that my safety doesn't come from who can protect me physically. My emotional safety and stability doesn't come from, it came through the process of child development, but I realized I inherited that to reinvent or recreate what emotional safety is for me. And that's the uncomfortability of the collapse that people don't want to accept. Imagine building something your whole life only to come to this very moment in humanity to realize it was all a lie or false. That's the reality a lot of people don't want to accept, because in me going through this, people will question, because it shattered their illusion. Why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? Oh, you better than us because you're not doing this? And so in that, if it was such an issue and not aligned, why would I still be doing it? Not only that, it shatters their illusion and foundation, whether they can either be supportive and or go back to what's familiar to their programming. This is where people don't evolve past. They stay attached through fear of feeling like, if I don't do this, then nothing's going to work. If I don't go out here and do this, if I don't do this, if I don't do this, if I don't do that, then guess what? And what it is that I recognize, like, I'm starting to learn this deeper. In becoming balanced with your spiritual and your physical, the reason why that's so vital is because it'll remind you not to get attached to this physical shit. It'll remind you. Because I see people suffer so much to where this is where the imbalances come, and this is where relationships or partnership or whatever, how they can naturally deter you from that journey. Which is still a part of alignment, because in there, that's what takes people more time than say your parting ways or however it happens, is because they're simply not ready. They're not wanting to. You can't force them. Like, a lot of this stuff won't make sense to the human mind or the person who just grew up in certain things. Now, to some children that's right now living, it will. Because they naturally come in with this energy of knowing how the system has already been. So they're a part of being a bridge, or we're a bridge for them in the collapsing to build shit that's preparing. That's not going to make sense to a lot of y'all. And some people, even in their ability to think that they're disrupting or can put their hand in something and make sure something doesn't happen, you're still a catalyst for all of it. No one person can do, well, yeah, it takes a few of us, but it's not just one person, which you've seen the world get so caught up in the fact of putting their energy towards one individual. This hierarchy that can make decisions for everybody. What do you think gives people the insight? Y'all honestly believe that there is no like higher power at play? To honestly believe or have this knowing that this one individual has a say so. No, they're just all a part. They're puzzle pieces. We're all puzzle pieces. And once you grasp that, you realize, like, you know what? I have this, from all of this is going to be the best outcome. Something else wanted me to believe, like, oh, well, do this and do that. This person, they want the worst of me. And in reality, they can't grasp the concept, like, in their wanting the worst, I have to realize the best is going to happen for me. The best outcome regardless. Whether they see it or not. That's the holding tight to the vision. And again, it happens naturally because you can be in connections or be in things with people where I've always said they can't see the forest from the trees. They're so distracted with, I gotta go do this. They're distracted with work. They're distracted with family. They're distracted with this. And see, in my positioning where I'm at, there's always had to be someone in the midst of anything that had a different fucking mindset. That had a different approach. That's why certain people come along with a vision. That's why certain people come along with a different approach. That's why it comes with resistance. And resistance, that's why it comes sometimes with no support in that moment, only for you to find a way to continue to build and create. And that's when a delayed gratification comes in. It don't make sense to a lot of people. Everyone's not willing. Everyone say, "Oh, you got to put years into stuff," and da da da. Those who mention that, those who really went through it, yeah. But for some of them, that shit don't come with you gotta post and share everything about what's going on in your life. Or you wanting people to know what's going on in your life. I'm telling you, the way these transits finna hit, it ain't looking pretty. It ain't looking pretty for a lot of people. They try to dress it up like it's pretty for a long time, but it ain't looking pretty for them. They know it. What else I want to cover? Again, if we're shifting to more of a world that is more in tune, then it's going to expose everything but that right now. It's going to highlight those things. Like I said, it's scary because it's scary yet funny because I have to remind myself, like, don't get attached to nothing. Nothing no one says, what they're doing, and so forth. When I say sometimes I feel like, and that's, I don't even like to use the term enemies, but I even feel like they're in disbelief because of how far I've come. Yeah. But again, those who are becoming more aware like this, the shift is not going to be about the status. A lot of this stuff ain't gonna be about status, these titles and shit. So that's another thing that we're revamping or we're recreating, and not giving no longer giving our energy towards these people who have a certain title. When I said I could care less about a certain title of a person in the world. Like they're just in a different world, different realm of things than what I mean. What's any different? I speak for. I know what I'm here to do. I know who I'm speaking for and speaking to. They're in there, whatever they're doing, they know who their targeted audience is. People who have intentions, and that's what matters the most is the intention behind it. It takes patience. What they say, delayed gratification. When you're doing something, then you have to go through these moments of realizing to detach, even in that, not looking for a response, not looking for anything. It's just the fact of, let me do what I need to do. And then when that wave of things shift, whether it could be 1 year, 2 years, a month, two cycles, whatever it is, detachment is still important. Because one of the lessons is going to be able to still stand in your integrity, even when the questions, the criticisms, or, things like that. You see how that's going to happen for a lot of people is just imagine people who y'all perceive to be these great, noble people who walked in integrity you have known nothing about. That was an illusion. So now when certain things come out, when things be exposed, when they can no longer cling to a narrative of the attention being on them, that can be another thing that people are going to battle with. It's an identity through that. And that's why I say no one's exempt from this, because it's just happening in different ways. When I feel like the world has been in a place of when you have seen that the world has never grew up on empathy, or a lot of people have never been in tune with themselves, then the world has been living in it's like an abandoned house. And so now Source comes in, or the Most High comes in, flicks on the light. This is a great analogy. And now, in that abandoned house in humanity, it's like now you'll be able to see the ones. Even if you go in the house, it's like, if I could describe some people, you can still see the light in people in there. But then the ones who can no longer hide from the light, when you flip the switch, you'll be able to recognize who's been doing the inner work. Then you'll be able to recognize like who's just of the darkness or being consumed by that. Meaning like it's more than just a good and bad thing. It's more so like you'll be able to see all the things attached to them and what they're attached to. And in this, what you're realizing in self-development or self-improvement and learning about yourself, you'll be able to get the fuck out of Dodge. You know how, like, how can I describe this? It's like everyone will be able to see who's who, what's what. And that's the thing, that as the veil is being lifted, certain trends that are happening. And that's like one of the, like, a great analogy I can give from that. It's like you'll be able to see who's who's done the inner work, who's willing. I mean, I don't even know if I think we're past that now, but people still can do the inner work and so forth. But yeah. I see you seeing stuff now play out, seeing who's attached to what and so forth. And on a grander scale, we have to see these things so we can no longer run from ourselves. That's just like shit that I'm in currently. Like, I have to see what I'm in to realize, is this for me? Does this no longer serve me? What a part of me wants to hold on to this? Is what I'm familiar with and so forth. And that's the beauty of, like, when it no longer serves you, there's always a way out. See, the old cycles will have you believing, or the old narrative, old world will have you believe there's no way out. There's always a way out. And it's going to be clear. And that's why I'm a firm believing, like, right now the table's being set. Seeing all levels of things, whether family, different dynamics, you'll start to realize where you've been eating at, who you've been eating with, where these people who they go associate themselves with, and all that. So now, what people were afraid of, especially the powers that ain't or used to be, the greatest fear was some of us learning how to build our own table. Meaning to learn how to no longer be codependent on their structures, on the foundations of them. Like certain things that, again, basically to learn how to rise from the ashes like a phoenix, or rise from the very things that were supposed to destroy you. Alchemize it, basically. That's what I had to realize, like, in the recognizing what was causing me to be unstable. I had to recognize the energy, the people who were keeping me from that. And see, once you recognize that, or come to that awareness, then you not only clock them, and once you get it, then you realize I'm victorious now. This is victory. You've already won. Because now I don't have to react, respond, or even play into the deception, the manipulation, or anything that subscribes to that. So then when the tables turn, or as your table now is being built in the presence of your enemies, I was like, oh shit. Whole time you would think that You're supposed to keep eating from these people or certain things when if you don't know how to counter that, you'll still be there. But it ain't even that. It's just when people, I've noticed this. What did Kendrick say? He said niggas want to play God. What he said niggas want to play? It was something in the verse or something. Niggas want to play something. Magneto or something he said. It was hilarious because I caught that drill. It's like nigga want to play God. Basically, when I keep trying to warn y'all, stop trying to play God. Stop trying to play like you're more advanced in the divine. And then the whole time you're revealing your hand. Because once you get to a place, I tell myself, I've gotten to a place, like once I started to realize like, it's like a little kid. This person ain't for me no more. Or mommy, it's like talking to the divine mother and father, a source. I recognize that these individuals are not safe for me. They've been harming me. Y'all don't realize, shout out to, was it Sister Mara? That energy of the divine mother is protecting her children. She's coming to protect her children, to step in, intercede. She ain't going for that. She like a lioness. She'll nurture you, she'll do all those things. But once them teeth start showing, and that's what's happening, I know this. I want to, it's just like, in any moment where people feel like they could have some type of control, that's when I recognize like, okay, this is where the story ends or the chapter closes for you. Because you think you're bigger than the program. And that's what y'all gotta recognize. I don't care what political figure, I don't care who has what, this and that. Y'all are going to see here who are representation as a divine masculine, divine feminine, those energies. Who is protected by the divine mother? That God that people been praying to, or that God that certain things people idolize and so forth. Y'all keep forgetting that all these things come from a source of something. All of it. They're not bigger than the program. And just as much as everyone has to go through certain things, they're not exempt. Why do you think people come along and remind y'all? No one's exempt from the lessons that they all came here to learn. They going through it individually in their lineage, we're going through it individually. It's when you decide how to counter that. That's why a lot of people, I don't care about status, celebrity, and all that. They came here, they can either rise in ego and continue to go through where they can rise in ego or to keep displaying wounded masculinity, only to their detriment. Like, I'm telling you, when I say that, I feel a sense of empathy. I really do. And I have sympathy from a distance. And that's the thing I'm learning for people. I have empathy. And I've also have sympathy from a distance where I know people like, you're not bigger than the program. And you're trying to, and sadly, but some people really think they're bigger than the program. And I told y'all, there's already been a shift in power. We're already on the way up. There's a rise in power. See, the illusion was wanting to make you assume that you were just supposed to be like this bottom feeder type shit, or this, you ain't shit. And I don't heard it all. And I heard it all, especially from the ones closest to me. So what makes you think that there is nothing someone can come along and say, do, or whatever? When you feel this, it's just like, what? It's that's the beauty when you know your path is divinely guided and protected. You're aligned. It's alignment. It's alignment. I really wanted to believe otherwise. I wanted to believe I was supposed to live here, I was supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do that. Whole time, everything is for your protection. Everything is alignment. That person reveal itself, that person come out and say all this shit, protection. Protection. This person wanted you moving away, all of a sudden this person, protection. I used to fight against that shit sometimes. And I realized, like, you know what? As you gradually go within yourself, you'll start to recognize, like, watch how lighter or in your, like I've learned, how can I describe this? In my coming to knowing myself more, I naturally start to see an old timeline, if you want to call it, or old way of living just dissolve. Meaning that the people are no longer around me anymore, the environment shifts. You know, you'll start to see that as, instead of things happen against you, it's actually for you. I tell you, I went from, and it's naturally, organically happening, unfolding. I was around people. Next thing you know, when I got not just, I don't know, say just tired. When I got to that place of like, this is it and I'm done, I start to realize the collapsing, why it collapses everything in you and then outwardly. Like I start to see why certain people, all of a sudden, something comes out. And they don't always end that way, but just certain things, the clarity. Then all of a sudden again, you start to recognize clearly, oh, I'm in a position to build towards whatever it is I'm creating. And if you pay close attention, their patterns and what they're building towards is so similar and repetitive to what they're used to doing. And in reality, ask yourself this. If you don't know of no one that has did the shadow work, meaning like been at a distance, not even just distance, but you pay attention to their patterns where you know they haven't had this opportunity, this room to really get to know themselves deeper, then they're not exempt from the fact of you haven't really did the inner work. So it doesn't surprise me why you act or respond this way to what it is, which I'm doing is living in authenticity, which cannot be threatened. So as much as like someone can threaten you, like let's say if in a family dynamic, they don't like what you're doing, get out, do this, da, 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 all these different things. And the divine protection is, I'm going to remove you, whether swiftly or, abruptly in a way to where you now, wherever you're going, notice how you'll get more peace. Notice how when you're in alignment, everything will be taken care of. Notice how when you're in alignment, when they say divine opportunities, something will present itself. And this is where, when you know you've accepted, you're ready. I told myself, I've noticed this even when you moved away or when certain things happen, that energy will either, in their way of pushing, they'll pull. So just imagine, like, once they push you out unconsciously, pushed you away, because it's just a catalyst. It's just it's gratitude. And that's the thing you have to see is gratitude. Okay, I'm glad this has happened. It may sound wild, but you have to also go through the grieving if you have to. Go through the process of life. In that gratitude, give gratitude to the experience. Man, I'm grateful that this happened. Instead of it always got to be painful. Now I'm able to realize, like, that's how you see the lessons. Now I'm able to realize that pool will end up happening where you don't run back into the burning building. Because once you're gone and people can feel it, because they'll be able to feel it once I've had this happen with me before. Like, I had someone come to me and tell me about something I was going to be doing in the world, like they had a dream or something. I'm like, okay. At that time, I was too attached to the idea of something else. But as I got more clarity and things start like friction or shit, energy comes up and it starts to seem like it becomes chaotic once you realize like it's not in alignment anymore for something. And I was like, yo, was they home or something? Then I start to recognize like their behavior changed immediately. Because something in their mind and their spirit and so forth, that again, them being against who they were or never being supported, or them having the idea that someone can be in this spotlight or receive this attention that they probably felt they wouldn't get, that's where the ego rises. That's where you can see the deflection. That's where you can see dismissal. That's where you can see, again, that's a part of alignment. So for me, I started to realize like, whoa, in that situation, at times where I wanted to cling on, it was for my protection. Or it was setting me up for something much better or something more in alignment or harmonious. So I was like, damn. But it reminded me to never forget how people made you feel in those moments. That's also a part of alchemizing. I told myself, like, in these moments, I was like, dang, I know this not in vain. I know it's not, even when someone wants you to believe it, because, sometimes they want you to go out here and do this, they want you to do that. And I'm like, bro, like, y'all don't get it. You don't get it, do you? You don't. And that's the acceptance of it. So in those situations, I recognize like people have an opportunity to be supportive in the best way they know how. It's not always finances. Certain connections I recognize, even in the moment where I was telling myself like wow, this like brings confirmation to what I'm going towards, is these things that come up around like clearing abandonment wounds or clearing certain things, is where aligning with coming away and out of a journey where it's going to be a soft landing. Like people will make sure that you're taken care of, you're supported, and so forth. That was very difficult for me during moments where, let's say, I didn't have nowhere to go. And that was because of, again, when I was younger, I didn't know the importance of stability. Honestly, I was just going, living life. I didn't know the importance until adulthood or certain things where it was important to have something sustainable, whether that be a house, finances, and so forth. Being that I had to go through those things, I started to realize like a lot of my outcomes were repetitive patterns because that's what I was familiar with. Then in learning this, I realized like how I was going to stabilize or become more independent. It's because in your learning to be independent, you got to recognize what the interdependence, like what are you dependent on that is causing you to go towards or repeat these same behavior patterns towards this outcome or having this unhealthy outlook. And so for me, a lot of my patterns came behind the same outlook. Oh, I'm gonna go through this experience and the same outcome is gonna be the same way. See, that's what's so fucked up about learned behavior patterns, because I saw that with my mom. And again, I'm bringing awareness to it because I've noticed like in her inability to have something stable, it shows me the pattern, how she would self-sabotage or do certain things. And this is not always the case with people, but it's like, it just showed me how the fuck could you gotta be at this age or something where you're not able to sustain something or stabilize something. And then I started to recognize, like, before I knew what a mother wound was or a lot of things connected to that, I started to see this play out in the women. And it's not an attack on them. I start to see that mirror back to me to get to this place now, the importance of what honest or authentic stability or emotional stability, the importance in it. Because again, the reason I always tell y'all about stability and emotional empathy is because we're quick to judge someone else's situation. We're quick to project onto their situation. I realize like the divine will have you going through that. It just may be in a different way. Like I said, you could have been birthed in money in the divine to have something collapse systematically to where, boom, now you're in this situation. And I seen that play out when I was in the shelter experience. See it play out how people you would have never thought was in there. I was in there, but people looked at me because of how I looked on that externally. They will assume that I'm not supposed to be in there. But what most people don't realize is that A lot of this in the shift of what's happening internally and consciously is that it's preparation for what does emotional safety and stability not only feels like, but in that redefinement through that, or refinement through that, then I'm able to structure it in my own physical way. Whether that be through building something myself, getting something built, building a community around that. That's how vital this shit is. That's why none of this shit is in vain. Guess what? Everyone don't have the courage to do that, to go away and get to know themselves and actually build. How do you think that this shit generationally has happened? You have people who, whatever belief systems, whatever they were being ruled by, or whatever fucking way that they were actually believed, that they thought that there's the self-hatred belief system that they internalized, their self-concept, their identity around who they have been for so long and built the communities around it. The collapse in that has a lot to do with us, of new generations, or the millenniums, or people who knowingly know what the system, which again reflects their internal system, which has created this external system and belief system. In that collapsing, motherfucker, I am a bridge. And guess who's gonna be with me? Like in alignment with that is the children with higher awareness that are coming online, that also intergenerationally want to be a part of, in alignment with authenticity and integrity. Not no bullshit ass people who hide behind behind their skin color, behind their nationality, behind their religion, behind whatever it is, to try to gain a sense of stability and identity. That shit is weird, and that shit is collapsing. And in that collapse, guess what will be reinvented? The monetary system, the structures all over the world, around the world, and so forth. Everything. Because y'all think y'all was bigger than the program. Bitch, this is an upgrade. And it's upgrading. Integrating and upgrading. Because when you inherently, like y'all forgetting that y'all children, grandchildren inherited y'all emotions. Inherited the shit that you go through. Then all of a sudden, I'm starting to pay attention who really, if you pay attention, if you observe, you'll see who really is a part of certain things. And then they're collapsing. I keep telling y'all, that's the shift. So it don't supposed to make sense. So it's supposed to highlight, if I'm reinventing emotionally safety, guess what? I have to go through the shit that was karmic. I have to go through the shit that was similar to probably what my mother and father went through. What are you saying? What are you saying? I'm not at all shame or feel guilt around the fact of, fuck, I had to come to the awareness that this is learned behavior patterns. Or, damn, am I playing out something like familiar to my mom and dad? How many of you have the awareness of that? And that's on all levels. You got people systematically, matter their status and creed, they're playing out the same fucking scenario at 2-3 generations. Same shit. Enslaved mentality, colonialism, whatever the fuck you want to call it. All these different fucking titles, which y'all keep putting titles and labels on. That shit ain't gonna mean nothing. Like gentrification, migration. All this shit is a part of shit that's already been happening. In any way, once you put a label on something, whatever it is, it's just like getting this candy bar or this candy bar. And I'm not encouraging, just this type of food. There's a label on it. But I guarantee you put that label on this and nobody knows, you eat the shit, you will never know. You wouldn't even be able to tell you the difference. I think about that when it comes to culture and creed and so forth. Like I said, you will continue to be amongst war upon yourself, amongst each other. until you realize it beyond the labels, beyond what y'all care to like divide people amongst. And I had to learn that myself. Like I said, I'm not ashamed and guilty at all that in the ignorance of me not ignoring the learned behavior patterns, now I'm at awareness like, oh, in cycle breaking, this is rewarding. You know how rewarding this is? Because I know what I'm about to receive and I already have it. I already have it. Because when I realized what my daddy ignored, I'm not ignoring. And that comes with the fact of I've had to distance myself to recognize this. What my mother ignored, I cannot ignore. That's what shadow work is. You don't ignore that shit that's coming up. When you have children by someone, if you're married and so forth, what is this person ignoring about themselves? Because that's all your relationships are really showing up when there's stagnation or not just stagnation, but confusion or just when you're going against each other. So somebody that grow up with healthy communication skills, someone that grow up with, it's so many different things to where you get to a place where someone's going to make a conscious decision. And a lot of it gets to a place of you go through different levels of that. And then that's where someone makes a decision consciously to realize like, it's not so much they outgrown it, it's just they consciously expanded. And I already been told you a lot. Let me go ahead and drop this one. The way that shit is returning, when I keep telling y'all about the mixing family things or people connecting with people on their level, like-mindedness and so forth, and on a deeper level emotionally and so forth, it has a lot to do with, it's not just about an intimate thing, it's on a deeper level, intimately than what y'all think about sex. No, a lot of people have to go through things being that repetitive patterns or karmic patterns of doing things led from sex, from a lower nature to rise in the higher chakras to a higher nature. And so with that, their identity changed, their value system changed. What they valued before in that person, in that marriage, in that individual, they don't value anymore. And then in that other person's inability to evolve or to value what this person valued doesn't mean that they're at odds. Doesn't mean that they don't, you like to eat that, I don't. Doesn't mean that they're not capable of being together. It's just certain things that what you thought drew you together draw you apart. It doesn't mean they can't live amongst each other. It's the fact that some connections this lifetime or certain experience had to happen that way. Because again, when you're building community and village, it's just evolved. The mixing family shit is just evolved from the fact of when you did live amongst each other in villages and communities. Because look at what y'all have now. Man, I be looking at these community spaces and all this shit. I'm sitting here like, fuck. Y'all living in a wounded masculine country, a wounded masculinity. And that's collective. But who's the heart of it? America. America is the heart of where the wounded masculinity begins. And that has nothing to do with just gender. It's how it has played out from the distorted mother, from what has happened to her. Her displacement, her refusing to see herself, her refusing to have empathy for herself, her refusing. And the reason why I say her, it got he in it, outside of gender again. It's the energy playing out, being exposed. And so with that now, it's about aligning with people on a deeper level. And if those people who are called to, it's like I said, it's a higher awareness and consciousness to all of this. This is why certain connections, you don't need to feel sad or I'm not gonna say you don't need to feel sad, but have grace through it. It's a grieving process. You're just elevating. You're gonna recognize in these connections, like you can't ignore remember it. It's nothing to feel shame and guilt around it, that you know how you met that person, you know what transpired. There shouldn't be guilt around it. Because what it end up doing, you repress it. And then instead of being honest with yourself, you won't be honest with the individual. And then guess what that does? Keep the loop going. And if you have children, then what are you teaching your kids? Not to be honest with yourself and with, the person who was a little boy or a girl before they came into their adulthood. So it's basically your inner child realizing that this isn't the individual that I want to live out longevity with. And again, it has a lot to do with the inner child being able to connect with this person from their inner child. When you think about child development, a lot of these things, and when I say the child, the inner child never leaves you, a lot of us have been in shit, or certain things have happened where in our inability to meet ourselves deeper, I can say for myself at times, and it's not always on me, but I can recognize when times where I realize, let's say me being with someone religiously at the time, they had so much of a codependency on being a daddy's girl that they couldn't go beyond with living and being like a sovereign being or free spirited, or, let their imagination just be whatever it is due to whatever program religiously. I couldn't judge, but the power within me or who I was naturally was going to expand beyond that. That's just me. Because I like to learn about everything else, not be narrow-minded when it comes to that. Hey, just what it was. And I've been recognized this in a lot of connections. I just realized, some people have a way of being in connections where you're mirroring back the things people want to hide. Now, I'm not going to say every connection was it was learning lesson, but every relationship I've learned up to now have very significance. It was at a different space of my frame in my mind and so forth. Frame of mind. And again, I start to become aware, there are things where you didn't grow up knowing the importance of, well, this is one of the important things. It's if we didn't have a mother and father's teaching the importance of how to choose a partner, and for some of you did have someone there, and you had it in a way to where they had to be a specific way that your mother and father. That's a whole nother thing around what people don't see as can be deceptive or controlling, or can even be manipulative. They have to be a certain way. They have to believe in this. They have to do that. And it works with people, but some people it don't. But some people are going to come to that awareness. And that's a part of a lot of people's enlightenment or awakening, whatever it is they're going to come into. They're going to realize most of why they've been in a marriage or relationship and so forth stems from someone else's belief system. They never gained their own awareness around identity around who they are, which again connects to their childhood. That's why a lot of people who believe in certain things or have a certain belief system, a lot of these things is your first development in the womb and your child development outside. And again, you're going to be scrutinized, ostracized, black sheep, whatever you want to call it, as soon as you start stepping into your sovereignty, into your power. Because most people aren't aware, they're afraid to do it because they love to look the same or be the same and so forth. That's you, not me. So, we know who we are. Those of you that are going through that process and so forth. But again, I can recognize certain connections where, man, had I knew what I knew before, I wouldn't change a thing. Some people say they would, but I had to get to this space. It was very vital. I'm telling, if I had to be very honest about a lot of shit, I don't been in connections where, again, dealing with someone who I really had to mirror back the fact of, being in America as an indigenous man, to really mirror back the fact of someone can date darker people, but to me there's a deeper perspective on you're talking about culture, you're talking about spirituality, you're talking about so many different things. And in that process, it just shows me what people were willing to accept, what they were willing to tolerate, and what this mirror backs is an identity that they created, or these standards or these foundations that have been implemented, whether consciously or unconsciously, that they either ignored, or their parents or grandparents, which again, most of people in America that knowingly know what I'm talking about, like, have been at the hands of this in the last 50 to 100 years, well, probably about 100 years, however long. And that's the thing about us millennials, or that's the thing about certain people. Like, we're not going for that shit. I'm not going for that. I'm not going for that. And when it comes to my ancestors of the highest good, they're not going for that, because sometimes through war you gotta get peace. And that's the thing where I realized why I could not and I would not settle. I would not play small for nobody. I didn't give a fuck I don't care if they was yellow as mustard or pink or purple. If purple didn't like pink for some odd reason, I'm in there like, what's going on? What happened? Or why is it that you can't live amongst each other, or find whatever reason? And so the reason, and then again, in other relationships, a lot of things we don't realize, a lot of us are in these vessels or brought upon this time to highlight what no longer can be ignored within ourselves, within other people. And in that evolving, or going beyond what's familiar, because again, a lot of people's belief systems are what is familiar to their used to living, and how they're used to living, and they're not aware sometimes. And this is where grace comes in. But at the same moment, I've had to deal with people not playing in my face. If I had to bring up the fact of this person has said this person has said this, that's not okay, because in my line of what I do, if I stated integrity, if I'm being honest and so forth, that a part of someone loving and caring about you is the fact of them, we got so far away from people protecting you behind your back. You know what I'm saying? Like having your back, what I mean, like, or being in your corner. See, life, I'm giving this analogy. I'm going to give the analogy of like boxing. I'm not into boxing or whatever like that, but it's just an analogy of the fact of you going up against this opponent or this person, whether you know them or not, don't know how skilled they are. It can seem like they're out of your weight class or whatever. But what's so important about your inner circle, or people who's in your corner, is that you have people reminding you of your greatness. When you sit down, you got to take a breather. That's that person in life. You got a coach. You got a person, hey, you got to do this, you do this. Let them tire themselves out. Da, 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 da. They may be bigger, they might be stronger. It's a way to where every time you go through a round or go through a lesson, now you got to go back to the corner. And see, that corner is, and this is the thing where I realize as an indigenous man, as a darker man, that you can feel, or I felt personally, that no one has had my back. No one has been in my corner. And that's the thing about being so reliant on a higher power or source, or on your vision. I go in the ring and people believing like, oh, nah. The audience don't believe that. Don't believe this nigga. Man, what he gonna do? Everybody in the audience has a perspective. He's just another this. He's just another that. He don't got the skill set. He ain't did this long enough. And a lot of this comes from their internal dialogue. So I'm going in there and so forth. But a lot of people have felt this way. But I'm telling you as a man in this country, from my experience, when you have dealt with personally from growing up, that it's felt like no one has ever been in your corner, because it's like they'll see you get knocked down, but not knocked out. They'll see you get knocked down and don't believe, and all of a sudden they'll leave. They'll feel like, okay, he's not gonna make it through the count or whatever. And you get back up again. No one believes that you're going to win, however it unfolds. So, and it's not just about winning, it's just the faith. And again, the going to the corner and realizing like you want to feel someone's in your corner. What I've had happen in certain situations, and this is just through my own role and through my own overextending and focusing too much on someone else. When I had to learn to focus on myself, then that's when I start to realize that some people don't have your best interest or are not in your corner, because they're gonna feel like when you don't show up for them like you used to, or not be supportive in certain ways, and now their egos start to rise or their insecurities start to spill out and bleed out, and now you're the problem because you don't want to support, you don't want to show up in the same way, and that's far from the truth, because in certain aspects in life, just imagine, your opponents could have been people in your life personally. And the whole time, if you didn't go and rest, and let's change the narrative, and the coach can be like the most high. You go in that corner, hey, focus on your breathing. Let them tire themselves out. Don't go back and forth, and so forth. Don't do that. Let them tire themselves out. Let them assume that they got the upper hand. Let them perceive that, I got them in the corner, I got them on the ropes. And what always end up happening when you walk in authenticity, when you be yourself, when you actually realize you don't know it all, and then you have, source in your corner, you have the lessons also, other person in your ear from what you learned before. You're taking those lessons in and so forth, and you're like, okay, let me go ahead and approach this differently. Next time this person does this is going to be my response. I don't have to react to every punch thrown. I know what it is to have people kick me when I was down. I know what it is for people to not support even when you don't have a dollar to your name. And the only thing they had to do was say, hey, you're doing amazing, you're doing great. I may not have this right now, but hey, we're gonna get through this. Simple things. It's not always how the world has gotten y'all to believe that it's material shit that can make it perceive someone is actually winning in life, and that's far from the truth as well. Because on the surface they can look like they winning because they have all this shit, but deep down they lost. Because losing, you lost yourself. Because even if you feel defeated, you don't lose sight of who you are through the fact of whether it's a win or a loss, as y'all call it. Because to me, I feel like it's just a lesson. Now you can approach it differently and so forth. So I haven't ever taken losses. I feel like I've just only received lessons. So I don't lose people. What's that saying goes like? I don't lose people. They've lost me. People get lost in the identity of me, or like I don't lose people. They lose me. And that's the thing I'm realizing, recognizing, I've noticed this in relationships, they'll hold tight to the identity. And when you start to focus more on pointing to yourself, and they feel like that's an issue, that's a problem, I don't need you to do that. That shows a lot to the selfish and unhealthy attachments that they develop through the connections. And when you have unhealthy attachments, it can become very, you can say, toxic, or basically we know unhealthy because of either a belief system we've learned. And that's what you see most people do. When they can't go beyond their awareness or consciousness of believing that there's other people in life that look like me or don't look like me, that believe in something else, that don't have this, that don't have to flash this, that don't do the trends, that don't do all this shit, because that's their identity that they develop. And see, what's not going to happen moving forward is that the powers that be now, presently, the Most High is not going to allow our children to be deceived and manipulated and devalued and dehumanized. See, that's the thing I've had to, as a child, navigate and alchemize. Because I know who I am. I've always known since I was a child. Now you tell me why that in my knowingness, why would anything want me not to know who I am or what I'm blossoming into? So that's the beauty of how everything is unfolding. Well, instead of us taking on a narrative of like it has to be a certain way, no, it doesn't. You're gonna always keep knowing yourself and continue to do it. Yeah, like we have these, this is like, like, come on now. Shit is wild. The world has only knows, think about it, the world has only knows certain people through social media. And if I look at the fact of, damn, that says a lot about your character. This is all you do. I don't even know you personally, but this says a lot about who's behind the scenes trying to push this thing. I gotta know who you are. I don't give a fuck. You don't even give a fuck about, man, y'all know. You think I give a fuck about how much some money somebody got or certain things somebody has? When through these cycles and transitions and things, I've had to know the experience of why is a country with an abundance of resources, with people who have this, why is it like this? Why? I see people who going through their struggles. I'm like, man, compassion, empathy. I see you. I'm telling you, the mask gonna keep falling. People gonna. Did I talk about that other day? I really do not believe people. That's just. I'm gonna say this only. I feel like if people really had the money that they say they had when it comes to certain people, certain status, if it wasn't tied to something, and what I mean by that, like if it wasn't tied to something, like that's like the elders say, all money ain't good money. If it wasn't tied to something, which I do believe, like you can alchemize the energy, but I'm just looking at spiritual currency over what people have obtained here. And I'm like, man, there's something deeper to a lot of, like you can just tell what some certain people have, like what's connected to them, because I've noticed like the pattern of how people would give to certain things, but not certain people. And there's a reasoning behind that. Especially when they know certain people are here to do things on a grander scale, which again, as much as people want to hinder that, or not even people, the forces, it's just like you can only do things for so long. And then here comes this abundance. And that's how I see like blockages, or even, those walls, those things they build up to block water. Everything that was trying to keep certain individuals from receiving was all divinely orchestrated for them to, like, there's going to be such an influx and overflow. The other day I asked myself, am I afraid of success? Am I afraid of receiving? Am I afraid of stability? Am I afraid of recreating the narrative? And I said yes. I said yes because I realized that was something I carried generationally. But what I recognize is in that yes, allow things to come in now, because it showed me that I could be scared, but I shouldn't be fearful of being secure and stable now, because it wasn't mine to belong with. Meaning like it wasn't my burdens. It wasn't I was here to just alchemize it. That makes sense. Alchemizing is just like you seeing things shift from a paper monetary to digital, which people will project their fears and try to say, oh, this is this and this is that. But everything is numbers. It was numbers before it was even paper. So a lot of things I realized, like recognizing the projections on that. But it's not about learning that it wasn't about I was reading a verse on that. I think it was Jeremiah 9. It was giving me, resonating with me. I think I'm supposed to say that in here too. Yeah, I feel like I am. Why is this like this? Yeah, I'm actually gonna read that and close this out. Okay, there we go. Oh yeah, I actually supposed to read this because it's like a code, but it's supposed to resonate for some of y'all. I think I'm gonna read different versions of this though, because they got the King James version and okay, so why is there so many versions? This is what resonated though, because it was something that came to me. And I think we closing out, are we in the 1 year, but we're still closing out the 9. And it's funny how it's Jeremiah 9. It says, "Oh, that my head were waters and my eyes a fountain of tears, that I might weep day and night for the slain of the daughter of my people. Oh, that I had in the wilderness a lodging place of wayfaring men, that I might leave my people and go from them. For they all be all adulterers, an assembly of treacherous men. And they bend their tongues like their bow for lies, but they are not vigilant." I don't know. I want to see how they read this, because I'm definitely probably saying some of these words.
Jeremiah 9.
Jeremiah 9.
Oh, that my head were waters, and mine eyes a fountain of tears, that I might weep day and night for the slain of the daughter of my people. Oh, that I had in the wilderness a lodging place of wayfaring men, that I might leave my people and go from them. For they be all adulterers, an assembly of treacherous men. And they bend their tongues like their bow for lies, for they are not valiant for the truth upon the earth. For they proceed from evil to evil, and they know not me, saith the Lord. Take ye heed every one of his neighbor, and trust ye not in any brother. For every brother will utterly supplant, and every neighbor will walk with slanders. And they will deceive every one his neighbor, and will not speak the truth. They have taught their tongue to speak lies, and weary themselves to commit iniquity. Thine habitation is in the midst of deceit.
I'm going to pause it on that because it's 5 minutes, but listen to that. Rewind it. If you have had a world that had not been living in authenticity or truth or integrity, this is the spiritual warfare aspect of, as you get to know yourself, you'll recognize what we've been living in and amongst, and people and so forth. So these are just warnings.
Through deceit they refuse to know me, saith the Lord. Therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, Behold, I will melt them and try them. For how shall I do for the daughter of my people? Their tongue is as an arrow shot out. It speaketh deceit. One speaketh peaceably to his neighbor with his mouth, but in heart he layeth his wait. Shall I not visit them for these things, saith the Lord? Shall not my soul be avenged on such a nation as this? For the mountains will I take up a weeping and wailing, and for the habitations of the wilderness a lamentation, because they are burned up, so that none can pass through them. Neither can men hear the voice of the cattle. Both the fowl of the heavens and the beast are fled, they are gone. And I will make Jerusalem heaps, and a den of dragons. and I will make the cities of Judah desolate, without an inhabitant. Who is the wise man that may understand this? And who is he to whom the mouth of the Lord hath spoken, that he may declare it? For what the land perisheth, and is burned up like a wilderness, that none passeth through. And the Lord saith, because they have forsaken my law which I set before them, and have not obeyed my voice, neither walked therein, but have walked after the imagination of their own heart, and after Balaam, which their fathers taught them. Therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will feed them, even this people, with wormwood, and give them water of gall to drink. I will scatter them also among the heathen, whom neither they nor their fathers have known. And I will send a sword after them, till I have consumed them. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider ye, and call for the mourning women, that they may come, and send for cunning women, that they may come. And let them make haste, and take up a wailing for us, that our eyes may run down with tears, and our eyelids gush out with waters. For a voice of wailing is heard out of Zion. How are we spoiled? We are greatly confounded, because we have forsaken the land, because our dwellings have cast us out. Yet hear the word of the Lord, O ye women, and let your ear receive the word of his mouth, and teach your daughters wailing, and everyone her neighbor lamentation. For death is come up into our windows, and is entered into our palaces, to cut off the children from without, and the young men from the streets. Speak, thus saith the Lord, even the carcasses of men shall fall as dung upon the open field, and as the handful after the harvestman, and none shall gather them. Thus saith the Lord, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom, neither let the mighty man glory in his might. Let not the rich man glory in his riches, but let him that glorieth glory in this, that he understandeth and knoweth me, that I am the Lord which exercise loving kindness, judgment, and righteousness in the earth. For in these things I delight, saith the Lord. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will punish all them which are circumcised with the uncircumcised, Egypt and Judah and Edom, and the children of Ammon and Moab, and all that are in the utmost corners that dwell in the wilderness. For all these nations are uncircumcised, and all the house of Israel are uncircumcised in the heart.
All this boasting about stuff and everything. Stuff is numbered. It's okay to have things, but a lot of stuff is a shift. It goes much deeper too. So that's all. Take care of yourself. Peace and blessings. Shalom.